All right, so 2019, week 12, Curtis Harris did this challenge, hardest I've done yet. Couple of tips and tricks. Some that are good to know, some that were just totally new to me. I had no idea that you could even do this in Tableau. So I want to cover those real quick. All right, first things first. Let's create a new sheet. Our objective is we want to be able to have a custom date, and then we want to be able to have a parameter for that date. It's all based off of order date. So something you may or may not know, if you go click on a date, go create custom date, we're going to select weeks, and we want to leave it as the date value. That gives us our order date week number. If I describe it, we go ahead and load these values. You see that boop, boop, boop. Instead of showing every order date, it's showing only each week. When you create a parameter, you can change it to date, give it a list, and I want to add from the field order date week numbers. And that's what goes ahead and populates this parameter list. We've done this over here with week selection. And if I show this parameter control, turn on the slider, we now have that functionality that we're looking for. Let's make that simple chart now. This is basically nothing more than we're doing customer name as a distinct count, twice for good measure. Hold down the right key. It's a simple table calculation. Percent of total for table across. Next, we need integers across the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So that way we can draw out our map or our visual. How do we do that? Well, we already know when something was ordered. We know the week that it was ordered. We know our week selection. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a date difference between those. So we do a date difference for the number of weeks between our week selection parameter over here in the actual order date. That gives us an integer. Now when I drag this on without any filters, I get quite a few. Let's go ahead and make this dual axis, synchronize. Get rid of the header. Make the first one a line. Second circle. All right. So now what is our process going to be to get rid of all these extra marks? We want to filter. Is the week for each of these marks equal to or greater than, or in between 0 to 12 weeks from this date selection? So this week selection plus 12 is the week of your date in between that or outside of it. If it's in between it, I want to show it. If it's outside, I don't. Order date, week numbers, the one that we've created, needs to be greater than or equal to our start date, which is just the week selection that we made. And it needs to be less than or equal to date add, which just adds and increments 12 weeks to our week selection. And then each row in the data is going to say yes or no. Am I in this or not? So we bring this on, we say we only want true. LOD. This threw me for a loop here. I'm going to show you this. Somebody on Twitter was kind enough to show out this URL for Tableau's help. Does all your data source stuff, fixed LODs, then table calculations. So our objective is we only want in our domain customers who have ordered from the max week that we've selected. So if I say my order week is 9/2/18, I only want to show customers who ordered during that week for the entire domain. So just like we did with this filter, is each one of these row items within the domain or not within the domain? So on each record, does it pass that check? Yes or no? With a fixed LOD, we can say focus on just customers. Then look at the max order date. Is that order date equal to this date parameter selection that we have? Equal to. You're only doing this one check. If it's equal to, that means that I, as that customer name, made a purchase during that week. In the domain then is only that customer. That's what makes it go from this 14% because it's doing this across the entirety of that. I don't really know the right term. You know what I mean? This way versus, let's show you what that edit. We're fixing on the customer name. That week that we created. What is the maximum week for each of the customers? So I'm going to go grab each customer. What's the last time that you purchased? Let's go find it. Not minimum, because we're going forward into the future, right? What's the maximum week of the order date that you made? Does it equal the week of this week selection? If yes, I'm going to bring you into the domain, and I'm focusing now everything else based on the domain of just who made a purchase on this week. Once I bring that on, select true, click OK. First one goes to 100%, and then they go from there. That's the magic sauce. Now, inside of this title here, you'll see when I make changes, all this changes. This very first, this part right here is equal to this. This, so this numerator and the denominator are going to change based off of this parameter selection. So how do you do that? For the denominator, we're going to look up the distinct count of customers for the very first. First is because in the table calculation, excuse me, it's only in this domain. All the other filters that we've got applied on here. What is in that first week? 28. What's a numerator? This numerator is static to the very last, at the very end of this process. What is that? Last customer count. Count distinct of customer name, last. So very same as the very first, but it's the last. That's it, because it's showing how many stayed at the end of that 12 weeks from who started. And those are the basic tips and tricks to get you through. The rest is formatting. And now that I'm looking at it, I don't really have all the extra padding around the side. But because it's Curtis Harris, you know all about that containers. So just containers. We don't even have any. Get rid of this. It's all about these little containers. Yeah, I'm done talking. Have a great week.